what's a good like first step for them to take to be able to come back to themselves and be able to feel like they're on this continuum moving forward so that they can not
Yeah.
feel so left behind?
Yeah, I mean, as woo as it sounds, I just think self-touch, just putting your hand over your chest, just sort of getting into that sensation of touch, which I don't think we get enough of when we're young. I don't think we get enough touch when we're adults. And touch is one of those things that we are hardwired to connect with. And if you don't get enough touch, and this can be in a way mental touch as well, like personal connection, conversations with friends, like deep conversations, connection, that kind of stuff. I mean, but I would start with kind of just, breath and touch, as woo as that sounds. And I know people is from a neuroscientist and a doctor, they want something that's a little more, maybe sexy in a way. But I think it's just really getting into sensation, because a lot of stress is basically a separation of your mind and your body. We go up into our heads and we start getting this dopamine addiction, and we lose that sense of our body. And then time goes by. It feels like, man, it's like 2 months have gone by. I haven't really noticed. It's just not being in your body. It's not being in that sense of sensation and making the intention to stay with sensation, even, and especially if that sensation is uncomfortable. If you feel sad or whatever, it's okay to feel sad. You don't have to run and go to your phone all the time. It's just being able to metabolize that feeling and being able to stay in it. And it's hard, when you get into depression and anxiety, that's a pathological perseverance in it. But in general, it just kind of doesn't allow us to stay. We don't allow ourselves to stay present in any emotion, good, bad, or indifferent, because we're so used to what's next, what's next, what's next.
You mentioned the importance of touch and putting our hand over our heart, and as woo woo and as maybe odd as it may
Yeah.
sound to somebody, a lot of times people will take quiet time, like first thing in the morning, and connect to their breath, connect to themselves. Is this what you would recommend, like doing this like first thing in the morning?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do meditation and that kind of thing, but I think we totally miss this aspect of self touch. One of the things that I work on with the people that, I'm an anxiety specialist that struggle with anxiety. It's like, where is this alarm? I call anxiety alarm because that's what I believe it is. Where is this alarm in your body? And some people say, well, it's up in my throat or in my chest or in my belly or whatever. It's like, okay, what does it feel like? Well, it's kind of hot. It's kind of sharp. It feels like a pressure. Feels like a pain. It's like, okay, can you put your hand over that area? Can you connect with it? Because to go another step into woo is, I believe a lot of people that have chronic anxiety have a younger version of themselves that manifest in their body. So for me, it's in my solar plexus, and there's a lot of neuroscience behind this. Like the insular cortex in the brain sort of mediates this sort of top down, bottom up kind of part. It's kind of like the way station where we feel and think at the same place. And I think that we create these body memories, these implicit memories, unconscious memories that are mediated by this part of the brain and the amygdala. But the insula is one of those things that it's kind of like, where do you feel something in your body? Your insula is kind of what metabolizes that. It's like, oh, I feel when you get a break, when you get broken up with or something, you're going through a breakup, the insula creates that feeling of heartache in your chest. So one of my work is to try and like, can we access that insular cortex when you are feeling anxious? Can we change the sensation? Can we accept the sensation? Can we put our hand over it? Can we connect with it? Because I think that is the younger version of us. And I realize this does sound woo, and as a medical doctor and neuroscientist, I want to have a seizure sometimes when I talk about this stuff. But it's really important to connect with ourselves through self-touch that we don't do. It's not like meditation's pretty common, yoga's pretty common, but it's really getting that sensation and connecting with that sensation, because the alarm sensation in your body could well be that younger version of you trying to get your attention.
Is there any kind of like protocol you would recommend to somebody who's feeling like anxious in the moment? They're feeling a bit trapped. Is it just putting their hand over their heart and breathing? Is there like I know we talked about like the nostril breathing and the
Yeah.
exhale. I think the last
Alternate
time,
nostril and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, you came on. Like how do we blend those things together?
Well, it's getting out of your head. really, because I think what happens with stress is we try and think our way out of a feeling problem. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But it doesn't stop us from trying to do that. I mean, I think as children, the only place we had to go if our parents weren't, there for us in a way, was our heads, because staying in your body was just too painful. Like that's where all the pain is stored. So you go up into your head, you start overthinking, you start becoming hypervigilant, that kind of thing. And it's a habit that we take into adulthood that we don't even realize that we've been caught in our head for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years sometimes. So it's like, can you make the conscious intention to move out of your head, because your worries aren't going to solve anything. In fact, they're just going to make you more uncomfortable. Can you take the opposite choice and go into your body rather than trying to stay in your head? Now, your body's probably going to be uncomfortable because this is where you store all the old alarm. So initially, it may feel more uncomfortable to go into your body, but I think there is this kind of overwhelming sense that when you put your hand over the area where you feel your stress in your body, there is this sense of connection that's there, and it immediately helps people. And it's like, okay, I'm on the right track here. I'm on the right track with this sensation and tracking this in my body and slowing it down too. Like our minds go so quickly. Our mind goes so fast that it just outruns our body most of the time. And it's like, can you slow your mind down enough so that it can actually join up with your body? Because one of the things I say about anxiety, chronic anxiety, is that it's a separation of your adult self and your child self, because the adult in you doesn't want to go back to the child because that's where all our pain is stored. And it's a separation from our mind, from our body. So when we connect our mind and our body back together again, we actually create this fertile ground to actually metabolize the trauma, metabolize the sadness, metabolize the pain, rather than just going into our head, which basically just suspends it. The pain is in suspended animation as soon as you go into your head. You never actually make a dent in that pain because you're too busy up in your head. If the issue is, stuck in your body and you're whirring around hypervigilant in your mind all the time, that part of your body never gets dealt with, and that pain never gets any sort of airtime, never gets any connection. So of course it's not going to heal, and it's probably just going to get worse.
What would you say the biggest mistakes people make that might not be so obvious, maybe these are subtle, that, throughout the week actually increase their anxiety?
Well, just thinking more, just believing unconsciously that you're going to solve this problem. If you're worried about your son or your daughter or your mom or your dad or whatever, worrying about it isn't going to do anything. In fact, it's just going to drag your physiology into the gutter. But if you can learn how to sort of go into your body and allow that sensation to be there, that discomfort about, like, did a podcast about my oldest dog, Buddha. He's kind of failing, so he may not last another 6 months or so. So it's one of those things where, can I go into that sensation in my body of what it's going to be like to lose him? And can I stay with it? Can I actually metabolize it rather than just overthink and go, well, he's still doing okay. He's still doing well. He'll probably be okay. That kind of stuff. Like, we know that we're just worrying, and we know that the worry doesn't actually solve anything. It just suspends things in suspended animation, and the pain is still there. So go at the pain directly, allow the pain to be there, metabolize the pain. And a lot of people who have, like, a partner, relative, parent, whatever, with a cancer diagnosis, they do a lot of the grieving before the person actually passes. And this is what I'm talking about. It's just basically metabolizing the angst that you're feeling rather than going up into your head and trying to explain why you should feel better.
Right. Other than overthinking things or thinking that you can think your way out of a problem or think your way into a solution, is there anything that people should be doing that they're not doing? Maybe like daily exercise, movement, certain ways.
Movement, for sure. Like, I think even, like, I have this little practice that I do sometimes, and I just basically move my hand and my breath. It looks a bit Tai Chi-ish and that kind of stuff, but it's basically, I just make it up. And anytime that you match your breath and your movement together, you start joining your mind and your body together. So it starts alleviating your stress right away. And when you move into your body and out of your head, you're starting to get to the root cause of the problem, instead of just, unfortunately, we're wired to believe that unconsciously believe that worry is helpful. and it basically just traps us in more worry. So the more you can go into the sensation specifically of your body, even if it hurts, the more you can start actually processing and metabolizing the underlying cause of this problem in the first place, as opposed to just trying to numb it by, overthinking.
On the other side of this is people can become, I think, passive, because we're talking about how to like not suppress but mitigate stress, mitigate anxiety. And on the other side of all this, there's people that are feeling, unmotivated, unable to focus, lazy, if you will. And so how can people do the opposite if they're like trying to upregulate their nervous system a bit to be able to prime themselves to take action?
Well, this is hard, but get off social media for one. It's just you're burned out your dopamine system. We have this place in our brain called the ventral tegmental area that makes dopamine, one of them. And it squirts dopamine onto the nucleus accumbens, which is basically our motivation center. And if you create way too much dopamine all the time, you drop the bar, or actually you raise the bar into what's going to excite you. So if you're always excited all the time, when you drop into a normal baseline state, it's going to feel pretty lonely and bereft in there. So a lot of what happens, I think, is that we get so wrapped up in this dopamine-driven society that we forget about the sort of the more serotonin, the more here and now, kind of like the more awareness, the more presence. And if you don't spend a lot of time in presence, you're probably not going to want to spend a lot more time in presence, and you just keep going at this dopamine cycle. And you can only go at it for so long until it just starts to burn you out, and you just feel, and this is what I'm seeing a lot in people, this thing called anhedonia, which is this, I don't feel pleasure in anything. Because they burned out their dopamine system, right? So you can start building it back up again by doing things like, cold plunges, putting your body in this sort of stressful thing where, you can kind of recirculate some of the isness of life, like the feeling in life, even if it's uncomfortable. So I think we spend so much time avoiding discomfort, and through distraction, specifically with social media, is that we never really get a chance to feel anything anymore, because we're always looking for the next hit. And after a while, you burn out that dopamine system, and then you won't feel motivation for anything. And then that's a dangerous place to be in, because there's not a whole lot of ways out of that other than doing the exact opposite, which is maybe getting into some meditation, going for walks, staying away from kind of like that immediate gratification all the time, and just retraining that system to build up, the sense of life again. Because that's what I'm seeing with so many people, is that they don't really have this joy in life. I don't see too many people that feel joy in life anymore.
So do you think that the only solution to this is similar to an elimination diet, where you completely detox yourself from dopamine for a period of time and then start to reintroduce it into your life in a way that's healthy?
Yeah, or just what do you like? What did you like when you were a kid? Like, did you like playing road hockey? Did you like riding your bike? Like, what is it that you liked to do when you were younger? And you're probably still like to do those things now. So start with the things that you know that you liked in the past, and start reintroducing them. Start going on a bike ride, every couple of days or whatever. Getting out of that mold of being in the house, being separate from other people, connecting with other people. I mean, we used to have, in the 70s and 80s, we used to have clubs, car clubs and clubs, and people would join and meet together. And now, because we have everything we kind of desire in a way in on a computer screen, why would we go out of the house? Movie theaters aren't doing well anymore. Like, all these things that used to get people out and get them feeling together and feeling connected. I always get reminded of those starlings, when you see those thousands of starlings and they're all moving in one direction. It looks like a big cloud. There is this neural net that we believe forms from bird to bird, and they all move in the same thing. They're all almost sharing one nervous system. And I think on some level too, this is what happens with like soccer hooliganism and, and football games and basketball games when crowds just go nuts, is that there's this wiring that occurs between human beings that we can't explain, but it's very powerful. And if we lose that connection with other people, we become depressed. And, what you and I have talked about before is we develop this us and them mentality where we only feel good when we're making them feel bad, when we're insulting them. And this is what social media is doing. This is why people will go on and just insult someone who says like, here's my flower arrangement that I did today. And it's like, why do you use roses? Like you're an idiot to use like, where is this coming from? And it's coming from the fact that people feel separate from other people. And it becomes ultimately because you feel separate from yourself. And when you're split from yourself, you're always looking for something to make yourself feel better. And usually the first thing you look for is like dopamine driven. It's not, you don't sort of look like, oh, okay, I'll just go down and watch the sunset and make myself feel better that way. It's like, I'll go on social media or I'll go do something that kind of, involves a screen or involves a phone. And eventually that kind of creates this internal separateness within us that just makes us really unhappy.